The day you thought would be ordinary becomes the day that reshapes everything. You wake expecting routine, maybe a commute filled with the same songs on the radio, maybe a list of tasks waiting at work, maybe a conversation you could have recited before it even began. Yet by nightfall, the ground beneath you gives way. Something, loss, betrayal, collapse, or simply a sudden truth rips through the life you thought you knew. And there you are, sitting stunned in the ruins of your certainty. You know this feeling, don't you? The silence after the impact, when your chest is hollow and your mind races asking why. The Stoics would tell you that this is not a punishment. It is not life turning cruel for no reason. It is revelation. Marcus Aurelius buried children carried the weight of Rome and still wrote in his journals that the mind that pursues the good, whether it achieves it or not, is honored by its very pursuit. He wasn't writing for applause. He was reminding himself that even in the worst days, there is dignity in seeking what is right. He knew that a day of heartbreak does not strip away your humanity, it reveals it. Epictetus, who lived as a slave with a broken leg, knew it as well. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Those words are not abstract. They were forged in fire born of chains and humiliation. He did not say them to comfort others from a distance. He said them because he had lived them. Think back to your own worst day. Perhaps you sat in your car, head resting on the steering wheel, sobbing so hard your body shook. Not graceful tears, not cinematic grief, raw, guttural sobs that made you feel like a child again. Or maybe you lay awake at 2 a.m., the ceiling above you, a cold witness to your unraveling. That pain felt like the end. But what if it wasn't? What if it was the first crack in the shell that needed to break, so the truth of you could emerge? The Stoics saw struggle not as the collapse of life, but as the chiseling of the soul. They would ask, what if your worst day is not the one that destroys you, but the one that refines you? What if the grief you carry is the doorway to deeper compassion? What if the fear that shakes you is the invitation to courage you didn't know was there? I remember the turning point, the moment I stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and began to whisper, "What is this trying to teach me?" That shift was everything. Suddenly, I was no longer a victim of circumstance, but a student of it. The pain did not vanish, but it became usable. The fear remained, but it turned into fuel. My worst day became not an ending, but an education. Think of the figures history admires most. None of them were spared collapse. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years behind bars before emerging with the grace to lead a nation. Viktor Frankl lost his family in Auschwitz and still found meaning strong enough to heal others. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus all endured devastation. Their greatness was not in avoiding those days, but in deciding what to do with them. And so must you. You cannot control the arrival of the hardest day, but you can choose whether it will bury you or reveal you. You can let it convince you that life is cruel, or you can let it show you that you are unbreakable in ways you never imagined. You can cling to the illusion of safety that is gone, or you can open yourself to the wisdom hidden in the ruins. That wisdom often arrives disguised. At first it looks only like pain. It arrives wrapped in confusion, bound with cords of grief delivered at the most inconvenient time. But if you dare to sit with it, if you refuse to numb it away, you begin to see the treasure inside, compassion that softens your heart toward others who suffer, endurance for battles still unseen, clarity that strips away illusions and reveals what truly matters. Your worst day is not the conclusion of your story. It is the prologue to a deeper chapter. Richer not because life suddenly grows easy, but because you grow strong. because you learn that you can survive the unspeakable and rise with a strength no comfort could ever give you. That is the treasure. That is the truth the Stoics carried, and that is the truth waiting for you in your darkest night. So let the breaking become a breaking open. Let the tears carve space for wisdom. Let the emptiness become room for new love, new courage, new clarity. You are not as fragile as you once feared. You are not as powerless as you once thought. You are not alone, no matter how empty the room feels. This day is not here to crush you. It is here to reveal you. They told you that you feel too much. They called you sensitive, fragile, dramatic, or overly emotional. Maybe they said it gently with concern in their eyes. Maybe they said it sharply with irritation in their voice. But the message was the same: you are too much. And so you learned to hide it. You learned to wipe your tears quickly before anyone saw. You learned to bite your lip when you sensed something no one else seemed to notice. You learned to shrink the vast ocean of your feelings into a shallow stream because the world told you that depth was dangerous. But let me tell you a truth. The Stoics understood your sensitivity is not a weakness; to correct it is a rare form of strength. Seneca, the Roman philosopher often remembered for his sharp logic, wrote letters to a dear friend with such raw honesty that 2,000 years later, they still move readers to tears. He spoke of heartbreak, of beginnings born from endings of grief that carved new wisdom into the soul. These words were not written by someone who avoided feeling. They were written by a man who embraced it, who allowed his heart to remain open even as fate struck him down. The Stoics are too often caricatured as stone statues, men of marble without emotion. That is not true. They did not flee from their emotions. They learned how to hold them without drowning in them. Epictetus, scarred by slavery and pain, did not say, "Do not feel." He said, "Remember, it is not the things themselves that disturb us, but the judgments we hold about them." That is not suppression, it is guidance. Feel fully, but don't mistake the storm of feeling for the entire sky. And your ability to feel deeply is a kind of vision. It lets you see color where others see gray. It lets you sense betrayal before the facts emerge. It lets you feel the joy in a sunset, as if the light were being poured directly into your chest. It lets you carry another person's grief as if it were your own, which is why people instinctively come to you when they are hurting. This is not weakness. It is empathy in motion. It is wisdom without words. Imagine a battlefield in history, soldiers marching forward with armor, shields, and swords. The Stoic warrior is among them, not colder than the rest, but warmer. He fights with courage, yes, but he also feels the loss of a comrade deeply, and it is precisely that grief that sharpens his resolve. His sensitivity doesn't weaken his fight, it gives it meaning. That same truth applies to you in modern times. You may sit in an office, not a battlefield. You may stand in a crowded subway, not on a blood-stained field. But your sensitivity is the armor that lets you care when others turn numb. Think about the people the world most needs. Do we need more detachment, more indifference, more people scrolling past suffering as if it doesn't exist? Or do we need people who feel enough to stop enough to act enough to say, "This matters"? The world needs your depth. It needs people who cry at injustice, who marvel at beauty, who ache when others ache. That ache is not a flaw. It is proof that you are alive. Your tears are not shameful. They are sacred. They are rivers that water the soil of your soul, allowing compassion to grow where bitterness could have taken root. Your intense emotions are not accidents. They are signals, your internal compass, pointing you toward truth. That unease you feel in a relationship that looks fine on the surface, it's not paranoia. It's perception. That surge of excitement when others dismiss your dream, it's not childish, it's intuition recognizing possibility. But here lies the Stoic challenge: to feel it all without being consumed, to allow sensitivity to sharpen your perception, but not rule your decisions, to let empathy fuel your courage, but not paralyze your action. True strength is not in closing your heart, but in keeping it open even when it hurts. Marcus Aurelius himself, emperor of the known world, wrote in his private meditations, "The best way of avenging yourself is not to become like the wrongdoer." Imagine the strength it takes to feel rage and still choose justice, to feel heartbreak, and still choose love, to feel grief, and still choose life. That is the strength sensitivity makes possible. So stop apologizing, stop numbing, stop hiding the very part of you that makes life vivid. Your sensitivity is the reason you can inspire others, the reason you can love without limit, the reason you can create beauty out of pain. Do not let a shallow world convince you to become shallow. Do not let those who fear their own feelings persuade you to bury yours. Because here is the paradox: those who feel deeply suffer more, yes, but they also live more. They touch the raw edges of existence. They are pierced by both agony and wonder. And while others drift numb through life, you experience it in its full spectrum. That is your gift. That is your power. The Stoics would tell you, hold your feelings, but hold them like a master holds a sword. Not recklessly, not timidly, but with both respect and control. Then your sensitivity becomes not a burden, but a blade, sharp, strong, and luminous. The world doesn't need less of your heart. It needs more of it, steady and unashamed. There comes a moment in life when you lose what you thought you could never live without. A job you poured your years into vanishes overnight. A relationship you built your world around dissolves with a single conversation. A dream that once defined you crumbles into dust. Or perhaps it happens slowly, piece by piece, until one day you wake up, look in the mirror, and no longer recognize the person staring back. In those moments, you feel as though the ground beneath you has collapsed. The identity you clung to, the roles you played, the labels you wore, they're all gone. You sit surrounded by fragments, and the silence is deafening. You wonder if you are broken beyond repair. You whisper to yourself that you have fallen apart. But the Stoics would stop you right there. They would tell you, you are not falling apart. You are falling into place. Marcus Aurelius knew this truth well. He buried children, suffered betrayals, watched his empire weaken around him, and still he wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Those words did not come from a man untouched by sorrow. They came from a man who had been stripped bare by life and discovered that when everything external is taken away, what remains is who you truly are. I remember my own collapse. I lost the career I thought was my identity. I lost the relationship I thought was forever. I lost the version of myself I had clung to for so long. I sat in an empty apartment, boxes stacked around me, and felt like a stranger in my own life. I thought I had nothing left. But then I realized the rock bottom I feared so much was solid, and on solid ground you can rebuild. That is the hidden power of losing everything. When your old identity dissolves, you are freed from illusions. The masks drop. The titles mean nothing. The possessions no longer define you. And for the first time, you are face to face with your core self, the self that is not dependent on circumstance. The self that bends but does not break. The self that can be stripped of everything external and still remain whole. Think of the tree in winter. Its branches are bare, stripped of leaves. From the outside, it looks lifeless. But beneath the bark and the hidden places, life is gathering. Roots are reaching deeper, preparing for spring. That is you in seasons of loss. You are not dying. You are gathering unseen strength. You are preparing for a rebirth that you cannot yet imagine. And this is where Stoicism offers its fiercest wisdom. Loss is not punishment, it is liberation. Every door that closes clears the way for one that is meant for you. Every ending frees you from attachments that were never truly yours. Every collapse is an invitation to discover who you are when the scaffolding is gone. Epictetus would remind you you control only your mind and your choices, not the events that shake your life. And when those events strip everything away, they also strip away illusion, revealing your unshakable center. History is full of souls who were forged in loss. Think of the samurai who, when defeated, found in disgrace the seed of humility and wisdom that elevated him beyond the battlefield. Think of the monk who gave up worldly power only to find freedom in simplicity. Even in our modern world, you see it: the person who loses a career and discovers a calling, the one who loses a relationship and finally meets themselves, the one who loses everything they thought defined them and discovers that what remains is indestructible. It is brutal, yes. It tears you apart in ways you didn't know you could endure. But it is also beautiful. Because when the ashes settle, you find the self that never depended on applause, approval, or possessions. You find the self that existed before the world told you who to be. You find the self that can withstand storms and still whisper, "I am still here." So when you lose everything, don't only grieve what is gone, though you must grieve because that is part of being human. But after the tears, ask yourself, what has been uncovered in me that cannot be taken away? What strength is emerging that I never knew I carried? What wisdom is being born in the silence of this empty room? The Stoics would call this a gift hidden inside brutality, a strange, paradoxical gift. One you would never choose, but one that once received changes everything. Because the art of losing everything is not about destruction, it is about revelation. It is about finding that your worth was never in what you owned, or who you loved, or what you achieved. It was always in you. This season of loss, as unbearable as it feels, is not the end of your story. It is the clearing of ground. It is the winter preparing for spring. It is the invitation to rebuild not the life you thought you were supposed to live, but the life you are truly meant to create. You are not falling apart. You are falling into place. You've had dreams that felt like destiny, haven't you? The career you believed was written in the stars, the relationship you thought was forever, the life path you traced so carefully in your mind that it seemed inevitable. And then one day, those dreams shattered. The business collapsed. The partner walked away. The door you pushed so hard against refused to open. And in the silence that followed, the question rose, did I fail? This is where the Stoics speak with steady clarity. Epictetus once said, "Don't demand that events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do." These words don't tell you to stop caring or to abandon effort. They tell you something far more liberating. Your broken dreams are not proof of failure. They are redirection. They are a turning of the path, a carving of the river around the boulder, a hidden hand steering you toward what fits you more truly than what you once demanded. Think of the person who pours years into building a business. They sacrifice sleep, health, and joy. They chase the vision with everything they have. Then, in one brutal season, it collapses. All that work feels wasted. Rage bubbles up, grief suffocates, shame whispers that they are not enough. But hidden within the rubble are treasures they cannot yet see. The skills they honed don't vanish, they will serve them elsewhere. The resilience forged in long nights and tight battles becomes the backbone of their next chapter. The connections, the insights, the character shaped by effort, none of it is lost. It was preparation. Your dream broke not to ruin you, but to refine you. Sometimes the dream you thought was perfect was too small for your soul. Sometimes the relationship you clung to was keeping you from the love you truly deserve. Sometimes the job you chased so hard would have suffocated your spirit had it been given to you. Life with a wisdom greater than your own breaks what must break to set you free. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. When a dream crumbles, the rubble becomes the material for a new path. What you thought was an obstacle is in truth the road." Picture the river meeting a great stone. It does not curse the stone. It does not stop flowing. It bends, it curves, it carves a new channel. Over time, that channel is more beautiful, more powerful than the original path. That is you. Your life is not ended by the stone of broken dreams. It is redirected into a stream you never could have planned. Think, too, of Seneca. He was exiled from Rome, cast out from influence and power. His dream of being a statesman seemed dead. Yet in exile, stripped of political ambition, he wrote letters that would outlive empires. His broken dream birthed wisdom that still speaks across centuries. That exile was not the end of him, it was his true beginning. And what if the relationship that ended was not the loss of love, but the clearing for love that truly sees you? What if the job you didn't get was the universe keeping you from years of spiritual decay? What if the dream you thought you couldn't live without was never your destiny at all, but simply the training ground for a destiny more profound? Do not mistake grief for failure. Grieve, yes. Let the tears fall. Let your heart mourn what it wanted. That is necessary. But when the mourning is done, lift your head and ask, what is life making space for now? Because it is always making space. Broken dreams are not barren fields. They are fertile ground, tilled and ready for new seeds. Some of the greatest stories in history are born not of fulfilled dreams, but of shattered ones. The explorers who failed in one voyage but discovered new lands on the next. The artists whose rejected works became masterpieces in disguise. The ordinary people who, in losing one future, discovered a truer one waiting. The Stoics remind you life is not against you. It is working for you, though often in ways you cannot see at first. The dream that broke may not have been wasted, it may have been too small. And you are not meant for smallness. So when a dream crumbles, don't cling to the shards. Don't cut yourself trying to piece it back together. Stand in the wreckage with courage and whisper the words of Epictetus, "I will not demand that events happen as I wish. I will wish them to happen as they do." Then walk forward with open hands. The path is not gone, it has only changed direction. And in time you will see that it leads exactly where you were meant to go. You have been taught to see struggle as a flaw in the design of life, a signal that something has gone wrong. From childhood, you've been told to numb it, escape it, cover it with a quick fix, pop a pill chant. A mantra, distract yourself until the ache dulls. But the Stoics whisper something entirely different. Your struggle is not an error, it is sacred. Amor fati, love of fate. Not mere acceptance, not reluctant endurance, but love. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together." He was not speaking of pleasant circumstances. He was speaking of the losses that gutted him, the betrayals that burned him, the hardships that scarred him. To love fate is to look at your battles not as random cruelty, but as deliberate teachers, carefully placed, perfectly timed. Think of your own hardest battle. Perhaps it was depression that weighed on your chest, like stone making each breath an effort. Perhaps it was anxiety that stalked you in every quiet moment, stealing sleep and peace. Perhaps it was grief that shattered your heart so thoroughly you thought it could never be whole again. In those seasons, you felt broken. But what if you were not broken? What if you were being carved? I remember sitting with a friend after her 20-year marriage dissolved. Tears streamed down her face as she apologized for not being stronger. She believed struggle was shameful evidence that she was failing. But what if the opposite is true? What if the tears, the breaking, the aching, that is strength because it means you are transforming? The Stoics would call that pain holy because it deepens your humanity. That anxiety, it makes you more compassionate toward others who wrestle invisible demons. That grief, it gives you eyes to see pain in someone else's smile. That depression, it sharpens your ability to taste joy when it finally arrives. Struggle does not disqualify you from living well. It qualifies you in ways no comfort ever could. Every teacher, healer, artist, leader who has truly changed the world has walked through their own fire. They have faced nights when giving up felt easier. They have doubted their own worth, strength, and intelligence. And it was precisely that struggle that gave them the credentials to lead others. You cannot guide someone out of the dark unless you have stumbled in it yourself. You cannot console the grieving if you have never carried grief. You cannot inspire perseverance if you have never clawed forward through despair. This is what makes your battles sacred. They are shaping you into someone who can love more deeply, speak more truthfully, stand more firmly. They are chiseling away arrogance, pride, and superficiality, leaving behind wisdom, patience, and humility. They are breaking your heart open so that light can pour in. But here is the Stoic challenge: meaning is not automatic. You decide what your struggles will mean. You can let them harden you into bitterness, or you can let them refine you into wisdom. You can let them close your heart, or you can let them open it wider than before. You can let them convince you life is cruel, or you can let them reveal that everyone suffers, and in that shared suffering lies the possibility of profound connection. Seneca once wrote that difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor strengthens the body. That line is more than philosophy, it is reality. Struggle is not static. It transforms you. The self who enters it is not the same as the self who emerges. That metamorphosis is holy. Right now, in the very heart of your battle, you are being remade into someone extraordinary. Perhaps you cannot see it yet. Perhaps you only see scars and cracks. But those cracks are where the light enters. Those scars are the marks of survival. They are proof that you have not only endured, but grown. One day you will look back and realize that the very battles you resented were the ones that forged the deepest parts of your soul. Your struggle is not meaningless. It is sacred. Not because it is painless, not because it is easy, but because it is the fire that purifies the storm, that strengthens the chisel that reveals. So stop apologizing for your battles. Stop hiding them as if they disqualify you. Lift them like banners because they are the very things that make you human, and being human is the most sacred thing of all. There comes a moment when you realize the life you've been living no longer fits. Perhaps it once did, like a jacket you wore proudly stitched, with the expectations of family, society, or your younger self. But now it hangs heavy, constricting, suffocating. The job that once gave you pride now drains your spirit. The relationship that once felt alive now feels lifeless. The version of yourself that others applaud now feels like a mask you cannot bear to keep wearing. That is the moment when you must begin again. And beginning again is not easy. At 25, it might feel adventurous, a leap into the unknown with energy and optimism. At 35, it feels daunting because by then you have responsibilities, habits, and scars. At 45 or 55, it can feel impossible because people expect you to have everything figured out. But no matter the age, starting over demands the same thing: courage. The Stoics knew this courage well. Seneca stripped of wealth, influence, and ultimately his life still wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." He didn't mean you should hoard years. He meant you should live fully, even if that means burning down the life you've outgrown and building anew from the ashes. Picture a woman in her 50s walking away from a secure, high-paying law career to become a teacher. From the outside, it looks insane. Prestige traded for uncertainty, wealth traded for simplicity. But for her, it is not madness. It is rebirth. She rediscovers passion buried beneath decades of routine. She rekindles the love of learning she once carried in her bones. Starting over does not erase her past. It weaves every lesson, skill, and failure into the foundation of what comes next. That is the secret of beginning again. Nothing is wasted. Every mistake becomes a stone in the new foundation. Every scar becomes mortar that holds the walls upright. Every victory becomes a beam of strength. You do not leave your past behind, you fold it into your new becoming. But here is the greatest barrier: fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of uncertainty. And yet Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, it is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. To stay in a life that is suffocating simply because it is predictable, that is the death of the soul. To risk starting over, that is the breath of life. You may be standing in that place right now. Maybe your relationship has been dead for years, but you've stayed because the silence of loneliness frightens you more than the silence between two people who have stopped loving. Maybe your career pays the bills but starves your spirit, and you've convinced yourself that security is enough, even though your heart whispers otherwise. Maybe you are wearing a mask the world applauds, but every night when you lie down, you feel the weight of pretending. The Stoics would tell you the bravery to begin again is not about recklessness. It is about authenticity. It is choosing growth over approval, potential over predictability, truth over comfort. It is whispering, I do not know exactly where this will lead, but I know I cannot stay here. Think of the phoenix consumed by fire only to rise stronger from the ashes. That myth is not fantasy, it is metaphor. Beginning again is your fire. Painful, yes. Frightening, yes. But within the flames, something greater is forged. And remember, reinvention is not just for the young. It is for anyone who chooses life over mere existence. The Stoics did not believe you are chained to your first decisions, your past mistakes, or the labels others place on you. They believed in freedom, the freedom to choose differently, to rise differently, to live differently. Yes, people will not understand. They may mock you, pity you, or try to hold you in place, but they do not carry your soul. You do. And your soul knows when it is time to shed the old skin. So take the step. Begin again. Not because you have failed, not because you are broken, but because you have outgrown the life you once built. Starting over is not quitting, it is evolving. And it is far better to stumble in authenticity than to march confidently in a costume that no longer belongs to you. Your future self is watching, waiting, counting on you. And when you take that leap, when you rebuild with open hands and an open heart, you will look back and realize the scariest part was not the leap itself, but the years you spent convincing yourself you couldn't make it. Begin again. That is the courage the Stoics call you to. That is the life your soul is asking for, and that is the moment where everything changes. Now that you've walked through these 6 brutal truths, sit with what has been stirred inside you. The Stoics never promised a life free of sorrow, loss, or failure. They promised something greater: the ability to walk through fire without being destroyed, to stand in storms without collapsing, to face endings and discover beginnings hidden inside them. Think back to each lesson. Your hardest day did not come to ruin you, it came to reveal you. Your sensitivity, the very thing you once saw as weakness, is the thread of connection that binds you to others, that makes you human in the richest sense. Your losses are not the end. They are the unveiling of the self that cannot be shaken. Your broken dreams are not wasted years. They are redirections towards something larger, something more aligned. Your struggles are not shame, they are sacred classrooms where your courage, compassion, and wisdom are forged. And beginning again is not a sentence of failure, but the highest act of courage: to trust yourself more than you trust the voices of doubt around you. Marcus Aurelius wrote that each of us is an actor in a play written by life's author. We cannot choose the role, but we can choose how well we perform it. Your role includes heartbreak, sensitivity, loss, broken dreams, struggle, and the call to begin anew. And your performance, how you respond, how you rise, how you love despite it all, will echo far beyond you. So take a breath. Let the tears you've shed while reading these words be what they truly are: not signs of weakness, but signs of recognition. They are your soul remembering its strength. They are your heart recalling its courage. They are your spirit waking to its power. You are not broken. You are breaking open, and in that opening, you are becoming free.